So you're thinking of moving to Rochester, Michigan. In this video, I'm gonna go over some of the pros and cons, the good and bad of living in Rochester, Michigan. And if you stick around to the end of the video, you will see exactly why people love this area so much. And we're getting after it right now. If this is your first time to this channel and you want to know everything about living in Rochester, Michigan, then subscribe below and tap the bell for notifications so you could be the first to know about the current market in Rochester, Michigan. My name is Holly Amato with Keller Williams Realty. We get calls and emails every day from people just like you looking to make their move to Rochester, and we absolutely love it. Whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send an email. All the information's in the description below so that we can help you make your smooth move to Rochester, Michigan. Okay, so let's get into our very first pro of living in the Rochester area. Businesses. Fun fact, 85% of these are individually owned. They also have a fabulous outdoor mall at the north end of the city. Also, in the downtown area and surrounding in Rochester, they've got a wide variety of events, including movies outdoors and music in the parks. There's a seasonal farmers market and so very much more, including outdoor sidewalk shopping days, which are my personal favorite. The holidays are always special in Rochester because you can drive up and down Main Street and all the businesses are lit up. It's a great experience. It's a lot of fun, and businesses really get into the spirit, and it really kind of pulls that community vibe in there a lot. There's really never a dull moment down in the downtown area of Rochester. It's a lot of fun going on pretty much all the time. Okay, so our second pro is looking at the cost of living. So overall, when you look at Oakland County as a whole, the cost of living in Rochester, Michigan is actually lower than the national average in many of the cities in the state. So things like miscellaneous spending, transportation, healthcare, they're all less expensive in Rochester. Also, the crime report in Rochester, they received an A+ rating, which is kind of unheard of if you go to citylistics.com. So it's a considerably safe community. And when you talk to people who live there, which I had the opportunity to do, I have a lot of friends and people that I know that live in Rochester, pretty much everyone feels like it's a very safe community, and they absolutely love the walkability factor. If you had a chance to take a look at my blog on Rochester and take a look at some of the homes for sale, you'll see that there's a lot of different price points, but one of the opportunities people have when they're close to that downtown area is walkability. And that's just something that I've talked about a lot on previous videos, but people these days are really interested in being able to have that community feel where they can walk to parks, walk to shopping, just take walks and walk their dogs, ride their bikes on trails. So Rochester really is uniquely set up to accomplish that. If you're looking for that type of lifestyle, you'll find it when you're in Rochester, Michigan. Okay, so our third pro for living in Rochester, Michigan is, I'm gonna throw some numbers at you now. I'm gonna get a little accounting-ish, and I hope that's okay because I know there's a lot of people out there who want to know, hey, what's the cost of living in Rochester, Michigan? So the interesting thing is that the tax base is actually less than average in Oakland County when you're looking at Rochester as a whole. So their mills, and anyone who knows anything about the way they configure taxes, it's all on the millage rates. Their mills are just barely over 36. And the average tax rate in Michigan as a whole is a little over 42 mills. So that's actually less than the average. So that's a good thing. Rochester also has top-rated public schools. And if you check out greatschools.com, and there's some other online sources, you can verify that they have a great reputation for providing a wonderful education. And I know for families, that's super important. That's something that people really want to dig into and research. Speaking of schools, I'm kind of pro Rochester because it's home to Oakland University. That's where I went to school. Actually became an elementary school teacher years and years and years ago before I got into real estate. So Oakland has a great reputation. It's a fabulous school you can commute to, or you can live in the dorms. They also have Rochester Community College, which is a great option for people who aren't interested in doing the university thing. So another great pro in Rochester. Okay, so we've went over a few of the pros of Rochester, Michigan, and of course, there's so many other things that would probably take us forever to really talk about all of the amazing aspects of the city. As always, I encourage you to drive over, drive through the city, take a look at the different pockets of areas that are closer to downtown with the homes and some of the suburbs. There's a lot of great options there, which again lends to kind of like the overall feel of community that people love. There are a few downsides, so we're going to chat about those for a minute. First of all, the western half of the city is on what we call a community well, which means there's well water. So you're going to need a water softener and you're not going to be on city water. So, that's one thing that some people don't love because they have to have those extra things on the home and is kind of considered a little bit of a con. Also, there's a lot of traffic. Okay, so there's a lot of people, again, you get a great area, you get an area where people want to live and people are coming in for all of, like we talked about, 350 shops and restaurants and different service industries. So you've got a lot of traffic. Rochester is actually a very busy area, but it's not centrally located for commuting with a major expressway. It's kind of what we call landlocked a little bit. You do have access to M59 and, there is some access points, but it is an area where, depending on where you're located in the city, your commute to and from work may be a little bit longer than you had planned. So, for instance, when people typically want to know how long does it take to get to the airport, it's about 42 miles from Rochester to the airport, DTW, which is about 55 minutes. So you want to budget at least an hour to commute to the airport, which some people don't have a problem with that because they're used to it, depending on what area they're coming from and where they've lived in the past, especially if they're coming from out of state. Maybe they live in a big, huge metropolitan area and, they're used to traffic and they're used to commuting taking a little bit longer. So when we talk about cons, some of them are kind of extreme for some people and some of them are not that big of a deal. It all depends on the person. And again, it's all about what you and your family are looking for and what's important to you. And just jumping back to that community well, typically if an area is on a well, they're also on a septic system, which basically means you don't have that regular sewer sanitary that some of you may be used to with city living. And even though Rochester is considered city living, a lot of the area, like I said, about the western half of the city and little pockets are on a septic system. So septic system is something that, the septic field has to be tested just to make sure everything is functioning properly. And it does have an end date. Usually I've heard of, most people will say you can get about 50 years out of your septic field. But again, that is just something that is a time frame that you have to watch, and it's another expense and something that you'll need to keep an eye on. Again, home ownership, right? You're constantly paying for something, fixing something, updating something. So that kind of adds to that list of responsibilities. Also, when we were talking about that community well, one little perk if you're on a well is you're saving a lot of money not having that city water bill. However, you do need to test your water. They call it a potability test, just to make sure that it's free from contaminants, because those types of things can get into the groundwater, things like nitrates. You want to make sure that your water is drinkable and you don't have any issues. Also, if you're moving into an older home, back in the day, they were grandfathered in and the well might be a little bit closer to the septic field than you'd like. Now, everything has its standards. But again, that's just something that you're going to want to check to make sure when you have those inspections that your well is not real close to that septic field for kind of obvious reasons. Okay, so one more con, as some people might see it. would be the higher price point in many of the communities in Rochester. Now, there's a few different reasons for this. The first and most important to consider is the fact that there's a lot of new construction. Now, this is a good thing to many people, but it could be seen as a con to those who are already living in the community, because the construction does have some inconveniences, some traffic issues. They've got, construction up and down the street. Sometimes they have to block things off. Sometimes it's just an eyesore until they actually build it. But with all of that new construction, you're going to find that the price point starts to pop up a little bit. Not just because it's a brand new home, which is worth more, but also the time frame we're in right now. I'm at the current recording time. It is October of 2022, and we're still in a time and space where construction materials are at an all-time high. Labor is kind of tough to get, and so it's kind of bumping those prices up on everything. Something that's interesting, a fact that I found, I went on Dwellix.com, and people are reporting there's not enough property in Rochester. So what that basically means is there are people who would like to be two things. There are people who would like to be in Rochester and there's not enough opportunity. And there are some people who really want to live in Rochester, but they want maybe a little bit more. They want acreage instead of, square footage in property. So that's one thing that people are reporting. They feel like there's not enough property from them. Interesting fact, the average cost of a single family home currently in 2022 is just under $392,000. But in a moment, I'm going to pull you into the website and I'm going to show you some of the current listings so you can see the wide range of properties that are currently for sale in Rochester. And I think 392, again, it just depends. Some of the older areas, you're going to find lower price points. But then when you get into some of the areas where have a lot of the new construction, that's where you're going to see the price point pops up a little bit. And with what we've had over the past year, we've seen a lot of selling, a lot of homes changing hands. So we're going to take a look at that in just a moment. Okay, so I wanted to take a minute and pull up my screen sharing ability here so that I can show you what we've got going on. Looks like we've got about 29 homes currently being shown for sale here in the Rochester area. And if you take a look, it's nice over here. This little handy dandy tool kind of gives you the outline and shows you this is the city of Rochester, Michigan, and these are all the homes that are currently for sale. So let's take a look at some of these. This one here in Loonsbury. If you watched my last video, the vlog on Rochester, if you haven't, you want to go back and watch that. I believe this is saying 757 Loonsbury. 760 Loonsbury was a house that I took you in front of, and I believe they were listed at 615. This one's listed at 475, so I'm sure there's a discrepancy, of course, square footage and amenities and all that good stuff, but they've got to be like right across the street from each other, so that's kind of interesting. And of course, pricing's having some changes right now. Over here we've got a 250 2-bedroom 1-bath. We're looking at that's going to be a condo. So again, we're going to see if we think that 392 number is accurate for a median price for what's going on in Rochester. So we've got here 639.9, 444. I'm just going to kind of scroll. We've got a 614.9, 1.4 million. You can see this one on Wesley Street, though, clearly newer construction, if not brand new construction. We've got one here for 1.5 on Autumn View, another condo at 167,000. So just remember, all of these are kind of, they go into that median price. And sometimes we'll section it out. We'll pull condos away from single family homes and do it so that we can kind of compare apples to apples. And again, another 629, 599. The 600 spot seems to be popping, I think, average from what we're looking at. Again, two more that are near the 600s. 460, we've got another condo over here, a 1-bed, 1-bath condo for just under 115. We've got this one here, looks like newer construction, just under $1 million. Okay, here we have just acreage, 800,000. If you're looking to build your dream home, here's an opportunity. The people that we're talking about not being able to have a lot of acres, well, here you go. 2.3 acres on off Walton. So that's an opportunity there for somebody. So I'm just kind of scrolling through. Again, there's about 29 homes here. So we're seeing some newer homes, 978, 825. We've got one at 570, 550. Again, I'm still seeing that 600 number is popping. Okay, let's keep looking. Elizabeth Street, just under 1.7. And let's see, we're getting to the end here. Okay, so these are commercial properties, so we'll just ignore those. Okay, but here's an interesting, at the bottom here, I'm on HomeSnap and I just jumped on here because it does give us a quick view of the market. So when you're looking at the week, this is going to be a couple weeks ago, the week of 10/9, because they analyze the data and they put it up. Today it's actually the 28th of October, but let's just go with this. The new listings in the last 4 weeks, only 11, so that's definitely down. But homes for sale were 26. So that tells us if we've got 11 new listings, but we have 26 homes for sale, they're actually sitting on the market a little bit longer than what we've been used to, which is actually normal when you actually look at real estate as a whole and not what we are used to over the last 2 years or so. Condos for sale, 6, detached, 19, 1 townhouse. Okay, interesting. The median list price, guys, we are looking at, I'm just gonna see if I can draw attention to this for you. Okay, so we're looking at this median sales price. We're looking at just under 570. However, list price, sorry. When we're looking at the median sales price, what do we see? 331. So the data that I looked at, again, that was giving us like a global view of 2022 as a whole. But right now, the median sales price, instead of that 392, is actually 331. So it's a little bit lower. Price changes, yep, we're going to see price changes. You're going to see more price changes as time goes on. Months of inventory, we still are at low inventory, which is what makes this market so unique. Even though the rate keeps popping up and, buyers are getting squeezed a little bit more than they had been when the rate was, 4%, 5%, then it went to 6%. Now it's where we're at currently, it's sitting around 7%. That's changing what buyers are able to buy. So we're going to potentially see price changes just because even though the homes are worth it because they appraise and an appraisal would come out, buyers may or may not be able to pay those prices. So that's kind of like where we're at right now. We're waiting to see how that's all going to shake out. The next few months are really going to give us the data that we need to go back and take a look at all of this. But so months of inventory, about a month and a half. So it's not like we have a ton of inventory. Homes are still closing in a decent amount of time. And what that means is if everything that's currently listed, like right here where it says new homes for sale, 26, if all of those homes all sold, we literally within a month and a half would have no inventory. So that's what that tells us. Contracts, sales average days on market. So this number is a little interesting. I would venture to say that if I ran comps on Rochester, I would say that that's probably a few, I call them problem children. You always have a couple homes that take a little bit longer, or here's the other thing, new construction homes, as soon as they are like with a couple months of being complete, or sometimes they list it right away, they'll sit on the market, and just because they don't have a contract and they don't go pending, it makes it look like they've been sitting a long time. But usually it's just because they're being spec'd out and maybe, they don't have a contract yet because people are either waiting or, again, they're kind of letting them get a little bit farther along. So that number right there, I would challenge that a little bit. I'd like to actually do my own research, but it's great opportunity to really just see what's going on in this area. I love using the online tools. I love checking and seeing what people say about an area, what they love, what they feel like is a challenge. It's just, again, they're just kind of culminating at the bottom. So it's a great opportunity to live in Rochester, and I absolutely love, this is a place that I absolutely love, even though, yes, there are some cons and again, it depends who you are. You may see something as a con, and it may not even be a con. It may just be how you see it. Again, we're talking about wells and septic, and, some people don't care about that. Some people, that's a really big deal to them. Traffic and commuting, sometimes people are coming from an area, maybe they're coming from a really big city like New York or LA, and they're realizing this isn't bad at all, guys. It's actually really amazing from what we're used to. So I think it kind of depends on what you're used to. When you take a look at all of the pros that Rochester offers when you actually look at lifestyle, that walkability, being able to, go to the cider mill, they have so many different, Paint Creek is a great trail. They have so many trails and parks. The downtown area is just always alive. They have opportunities to movies in the park and sidewalk selling days with the stores. So when you really take a look at everything as a whole, and don't forget, when you look at Oakland County as a whole, the millage rates are actually lower than the average in Rochester. And of course, that can fluctuate and change as the taxes change, as the home values change. A lot more new construction can change that. But you're looking at an area that's full of growth, full of opportunity, that people that you talk to report really enjoying living there. So I would say, even though there are some potential cons, Rochester, Michigan is an absolutely fabulous area. And if you want more information, I'm always available to talk to you at length. I hope that you enjoyed our video today, taking a look at Rochester, Michigan, all the pros, some of the cons, and if I can be of further assistance to help you make that smooth move to Rochester, Michigan, please give me a call, shoot me a text, or send me an email. And until next time, I hope to be able to show you around town. Just remember, it's always more than a move.